Let me ask you something. What if the hardest chapter of your life, the one you thought would break you, was actually the moment you crossed a threshold you didn't even know existed? What if all those nights you lay awake questioning everything were actually signs that something inside you had already transformed? Today, we're exploring 7 signals, quiet, powerful, often overlooked, that suggest you've already passed the most painful test your soul will ever face. And as we go, I want you to ask yourself, have I already come farther than I've ever given myself credit for? Let's break this down step by step in a way that's objective, thoughtful, and grounded. So, first, let's talk about what we even mean by a soul test. I'm not talking about anything mystical or religious here. I'm talking about those moments in life when everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down. When people leave, opportunities vanish, and you're left staring at a version of yourself you barely recognize. You know the feeling, that season, when life stripped away every illusion and left you face to face with who you really are, beneath all the roles and expectations. Psychologists have studied this for decades. There's this idea that human beings evolve through suffering, through integration, through rebirth. It's the process of becoming who you truly are. Not who your parents wanted you to be, not who society expected, but the real you. And here's the thing, this process rarely announces itself. It doesn't show up with a neat little label that says, "Congratulations, you're growing." No, it comes disguised as loss, as chaos, as emptiness, and only after you've survived it do you begin to realize what it was actually preparing you for. Think back for a moment. Was there a time when everything in your life seemed to collapse? When the ground beneath you gave way and you didn't know how you'd make it through the next week, let alone the next year? Many people who've passed through this silent initiation remember a season like that, a time when life peeled back every layer, every defense mechanism, and left them raw. That's the essence of what I call the night sea journey, the descent into the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, where everything you've denied waits to be acknowledged and understood. Passing the test of the soul means you faced that darkness and came out with new eyes. It means the storm didn't destroy you, it revealed you. So, here's the first sign that you've already passed through that fire. You no longer fear being alone. At some point, your loneliness stopped feeling like punishment and began to feel like peace. You discovered that being alone isn't the same as being abandoned. Instead, it became the sacred space where you finally heard your own voice again. I think about this a lot. In ancient traditions, people would retreat into deserts or mountains to find clarity. Mystics would spend years in isolation, and countless souls throughout history have rediscovered their truth in silence. If you can now sit with yourself without running away from your thoughts, without needing constant noise or distraction, your soul has matured beyond dependency. You no longer seek validation from the outside world to know your worth because you've already looked into the depth of yourself and realized you are enough. This kind of peace can't be taught. It's earned. It comes through endurance, through those silent tears, through the nights when you thought you'd never make it, but you did. And now solitude doesn't scare you anymore. It grounds you. From that grounding comes the second sign, and this one is subtle but profound. You've stopped blaming others for your pain. There was a time when you looked outward, searching for someone to hold responsible for what happened to you. Maybe it was a partner who left, a friend who betrayed you, a family member who let you down. But something shifted. Instead of seeing villains, you began to see teachers. You realized that the people who hurt you were often unconscious participants in your awakening. They showed you where your wounds were hiding. And here's the thing, this isn't about condoning cruelty or forgetting betrayal. It's about understanding that your soul used those experiences to reveal parts of yourself that needed healing. When you reach this level of awareness, life stops being a battlefield and becomes a classroom. You begin to live from a place of quiet compassion, even for those who caused you pain, because you now understand that they too were fighting battles you couldn't see. This shift transforms everything. You stop replaying the same painful memories on a loop. You stop wishing things had unfolded differently. Instead, you ask a different question. What was life trying to show me through this? And that question, that simple reframe, marks the beginning of real wisdom. Which brings us to the third sign, and it might surprise you. You feel gratitude for the lessons hidden in your suffering. I know how that sounds. Gratitude for pain. That used to feel impossible, maybe even offensive, when you were still bleeding from life's wounds. But now, when you look back, You can see how each trial shaped you, softened you, and deepened your understanding of what really matters. This isn't toxic positivity. It's the mature recognition that meaning can coexist with pain. Ask yourself, can you now look at your past not as a curse, but as the ground where your soul grew? Can you feel a quiet thankfulness for the journey even with all its heartbreaks? If so, you've crossed a threshold. You've turned pain into purpose and scars into wisdom. Every person who transcends the test of the soul reaches this moment when they finally stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is life trying to teach me through this?" That shift in perspective marks the true beginning of enlightenment. It's the moment your consciousness expands beyond victimhood and begins to see the intelligence working behind the chaos. Stay with me because the next signs get even more transformative. The fourth sign is this: you've developed an unshakable sense of inner calm even when life becomes chaotic. There was a time when every unexpected challenge would send you spiraling into fear, anger, or despair. But now, even when everything around you falls apart, something inside remains still. It's as if your soul remembers that you've already survived storms greater than this. I've learned that in all chaos, there's a hidden order. In all disorder, a secret pattern. You've learned that life doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. You no longer resist uncertainty because you've discovered that peace isn't found in control. It's found in surrender. When you reach this point, life stops feeling like a constant struggle against fate. You begin to trust the unfolding of things, not with blind faith, but with deep knowing, born from experience. You might still feel pain, but it no longer defines you. The fear that once dominated your mind has lost its power because you now recognize it as a passing visitor, not a permanent state. You've realized that emotional turbulence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a reminder that you're human, still learning, still expanding, and so you face challenges with grace because you no longer need the illusion of certainty to feel safe. This inner calm leads naturally to the fifth sign, and it's one that many people overlook. Your compassion has deepened, not diminished. Often when people endure deep suffering, they harden. They close their hearts to avoid being hurt again. But those who have truly passed the test of the soul do the opposite. You've allowed your pain to soften you, not break you. You feel the struggles of others more vividly now because you recognize parts of yourself in their eyes. This compassion isn't sentimental. It's born from understanding. You no longer judge as quickly because you know how it feels to lose direction, to be misunderstood, to fight invisible battles in silence. The empathy you now carry is not weakness. It's sacred strength. It's the mark of someone who has seen the depths and chosen love anyway. When you reach this stage, you begin to attract others who are also walking their own path of healing. Conversations become deeper. Relationships feel more authentic. You're drawn to people who value truth, vulnerability, and growth. This shift in vibration isn't accidental. It's your soul's way of aligning with what now resonates with your frequency of consciousness. Yet, this new awareness also brings solitude of a different kind. You might notice that some relationships fade away naturally. It's not because of resentment, but because your energy no longer matches. And this too is a sign of growth. You've learned to release with peace, to let go without bitterness. You understand now that every soul you meet plays its role. Some come to teach, some to test, and a few to stay. But none were meant to last beyond their purpose in your story. The sixth sign builds on all of this. You have the ability to live with uncertainty and still move forward with faith. Life no longer feels like a series of random events. Even when you don't have all the answers, you feel guided by something larger than logic. You might call it destiny, intuition, or divine timing. But deep down, you know it's real. This is the moment when your conscious mind and your deeper instincts begin to work together. You trust your intuition because it's proven itself through experience. That quiet inner voice that once seemed faint now speaks with clarity, and you listen. You make choices not from fear, but from alignment with your authentic self. When you trust this inner guidance, life begins to unfold in ways that feel synchronistic. You notice patterns, coincidences, and subtle signs that seem to confirm you're on the right path. These meaningful coincidences reveal a hidden order in reality, one that becomes visible only when your inner and outer worlds are in harmony. This is the stage where your old self begins to dissolve. You no longer chase things that once seemed essential: validation, approval, competition, the endless pursuit of status. Instead, you seek peace, purpose, and authenticity. You understand that your worth isn't something to be proven, but something to be remembered. You begin to ask different questions. Not how can I get more, but how can I live more truthfully? Not who do I need to become, but who was I before I learned to doubt myself? These are the questions of an awakened soul, one that no longer seeks external confirmation, but listens to the wisdom that rises from within. And yet, even here, the journey isn't over. There remains one final revelation, the seventh and most powerful sign. It's the ultimate proof that you've already passed the most painful test of your soul. It's the key that unlocks not only understanding, but liberation. Before we get there, reflect for a moment. Have you felt these changes in yourself? Have you noticed that you react differently to pain, to people, to life itself? Because what comes next will illuminate the real purpose behind all your suffering and show you why every heartbreak, loss, and struggle had to happen exactly as it did. You've reached a point where you can begin to see yourself not as a victim of fate, but as a participant in a greater design. The realization that your suffering had purpose transforms everything. The illusions of control and fear begin to fade, and what remains is truth raw, liberating, and humbling. So here it is, the seventh and final sign. You no longer identify with your wounds, but with the wisdom they revealed. You've stopped saying, "This is what broke me," and started saying, "This is what awakened me." This is profound. The process of becoming whole isn't about erasing your shadow. It's about integrating it. It's about realizing that the person you show to the world and the hidden aspects you once denied were never enemies. They were always part of the same whole. You've reached a state where you can look at your past self, the one who struggled, cried, and doubted with compassion instead of shame. You no longer reject that version of you because you finally understand that without them, you would not have reached this moment of clarity. The healing wasn't about erasing pain. It was about integrating it into the story of your evolution. This integration marks a profound transformation of consciousness. You begin to sense that every moment of your life, every joy, every heartbreak was the universe speaking to you in a language beyond words. You realize that nothing was wasted. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every ending was carving you into the person you were destined to become. At this stage, even forgiveness changes. You no longer forgive because someone deserves it. You forgive because your soul can no longer carry the weight of resentment. Forgiveness becomes an act of liberation, not absolution. You understand that holding on to anger binds you to the past while letting go sets you free. Think about it. How much energy do we spend replaying the same painful memories, wishing they had unfolded differently? But when you truly pass the test of the soul, you stop fighting with what happened. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you for teaching me." That shift in vibration changes everything about the way you live. And from that awareness emerges something extraordinary, a quiet joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not the fleeting happiness that comes from success or pleasure, but a steady warmth within the joy of simply being alive, awake, and connected to something vast and eternal. This joy is the unmistakable signature of a soul that has transcended suffering. You don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light. You become enlightened by making the darkness conscious. And you've done that work. You faced your darkness and learned to walk with it instead of running from it. And now, instead of fearing the unknown, you trust it. You've discovered that the universe isn't something to conquer or control, but to flow with. This new consciousness brings a deep sense of humility. You understand that every soul is on its own path, unfolding in its own time. You no longer need to force others to awaken or understand you. You radiate peace, and those who are ready will feel it. You become a light that others may perceive, even if they don't know why, is another sign. Subtle, yet profound. You begin to live in the present moment with a new kind of awareness. You're no longer haunted by regrets of the past or anxious about the future. You understand that everything you seek is already here now. You find beauty and simplicity in a sunrise, in silence, in the laughter of a friend, What once seemed ordinary now feels sacred. This awakening doesn't mean life becomes easy. Challenges still arise, lust still visits, but you face them with equanimity. You trust that every experience, whether pleasant or painful, is an invitation to deepen your understanding of yourself and of existence. You no longer resist life, you dance with it. This is the essence of spiritual maturity. The realization that your worth, your peace, your purpose were never outside of you. They were hidden within the very pain you tried to avoid. So what happens after this awakening? What is the soul's purpose once it has transcended the pain? I believe that when your personal suffering transforms into compassion, you become a bridge for healing in others. You no longer live only for yourself. Your presence begins to uplift those around you without trying. You become a healer, a mirror, a guide. People may not understand why they feel calmer, safer, more inspired in your presence, but it's because your energy carries the vibration of peace. You've become living proof that light can emerge from darkness. Have you noticed this in yourself? That people are drawn to your calmness, your kindness, your quiet strength. That's not coincidence, it's resonance. Your energy has changed because you have changed, and yet this is not the end. The journey of the soul never truly ends. It only deepens. The moment you awaken, new layers of understanding begin to unfold. You now stand at the threshold of a new existence, one that no longer revolves around survival, but around meaning. Passing the most painful test of your soul was never about escaping suffering. It was about learning to transform it. What once felt like destruction has revealed itself as rebirth. You are no longer who you were before the storm. You are something deeper, wiser, and infinitely more free. The process of becoming whole, of integrating the conscious and the unconscious, is the ultimate purpose of human life. It's about becoming who you truly are, and that is the essence of the journey you've just completed. Every trial you faced was a mirror, reflecting the parts of yourself that needed to be acknowledged, healed, and loved. And now those fragments have returned home to your heart. So, how do you live from this awakened state? The first step is humility. Spiritual maturity isn't about superiority or detachment. It's about presence. You understand that awakening doesn't make you better than others. It makes you more compassionate toward their struggles. You no longer see those who are lost in pain as broken, but as travelers still walking their sacred path just as you once did. You begin to live with a quiet reverence for life. The small moments become portals of wonder. You notice how sunlight moves across a wall, how the sound of rain seems to whisper something ancient, how even silence carries its own music. This sensitivity isn't fragility, it's awareness. The same heart that once broke open from sorrow is now open wide enough to hold beauty and pain together without resistance. In this state, gratitude becomes your natural language. You wake each day aware that you've been given another chance to see, to love, to learn. You no longer chase happiness as a goal. You allow it to arise naturally from the fullness of each moment. Happiness, you realize, isn't something to achieve, is the byproduct of authenticity. The next step is alignment. When your inner and outer worlds match, you live with integrity. You speak the truth even when your voice trembles. You follow what feels right, not what is convenient. You create from love, not from fear. And when challenges come, as they always do, you no longer see them as punishments, but as invitations to grow. You have learned to trust the rhythm of life, knowing that even when the path disappears beneath your feet, something within you knows the way. This trust allows you to live courageously. You begin to take risks guided not by ego, but by intuition. You might change careers, leave relationships, or move to new places, not because you're running away, but because you're being called towards something more authentic. You've learned that the soul's compass always points toward truth, and when you follow it, the universe responds. There is also a deeper purpose waiting for you now. Service. When a soul passes through the fire and survives, it carries light back for others. Your story becomes medicine, your pain becomes guidance. You begin to realize that your healing was never just for you. It was for everyone you will touch. Whether you share your wisdom through conversation, through simply being present, or through the peace you radiate, your presence begins to heal. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness. That light is now within you. It's the wisdom that emerged from your suffering, the compassion that grew from your tears, the strength that was forged in your silence, and it is meant to be shared not through preaching, but through living. The world needs awakened souls, not perfect ones, but real ones. People who have faced their own shadows and can now guide others with empathy instead of judgment. You become a quiet force of healing in every room you enter. Not because you're trying to change others, but because you embody peace. Your calm becomes contagious. Your authenticity gives others permission to be themselves. Still, you will have moments when you forget, when doubt creeps in, when old wounds whisper again. But the difference now is that you know how to return. You know that the light was never outside of you. You've learned to breathe through the storms, to remember that darkness is not the absence of light, but the space where it renews itself. This is what it means to pass the most painful test of your soul. It's not a single event, but an initiation into a new way of being, one grounded in awareness, compassion, and faith in the mystery of life. The scars remain, but they no longer ache. They have become symbols of transformation, proof that you faced the fire and were not consumed. So take a deep breath. Feel how far you've come. Every lesson, every loss, every tear was preparing you for this moment. The moment when you finally see yourself not as broken, but as whole. If this message resonates with you, share your reflections in the comments below. Let others know which part of your journey mirrored what you heard today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it, because awakening is contagious. When one soul rises, it gives permission for others to rise too. Remember this. Your soul has already passed through the fire. You have survived what was meant to destroy you. And now you carry the quiet power of someone who has seen the darkness, embraced it, and returned with light. The test was never meant to break you. It was meant to reveal you. And it has